Modern animism makes the oldest spiritual belief easy for today's seekers to understand, practice, and live. Stay tuned and grow with us. At the time of this podcast, Russia and the Ukraine have been at war for 3 years. Israel and the Palestinians have been battling since the creation of Israel, but this latest round started October 7, 2023. There are also many armed conflicts raging that don't make the headlines, such as those in Sudan, Myanmar, and Haiti. And if you're like me, this concerns you. You want to do something. And in today's podcast, I'm going to share what I'm doing to end the war. I'm focusing on ending the war in myself, using 9 strategies. But before I get into the details of that, let's acknowledge the elements, the creators of all things. Why do I do that rather than call on them? It's because they're always here. To acknowledge the element of earth and ask that you remind us all to stay grounded, present in our bodies, diligent, and bless us with fertility and abundance. Thank you, earth. I acknowledge air, and thank you for the warmer winds that are blowing in that wash away stagnation and help us to communicate clearly with each other and the spirit realm. Thank you, air. I acknowledge the element of fire, and thank you for the light that shows us the way, the power to move forward, and the power to transform anything. Thank you, fire. Acknowledge and thank the element of water for your soft and gentle ability to wear away the hardest, most stubborn pain, for your flexibility to move into the deepest, darkest places, and for allowing us to feel so that we have a guide through life. Thank you, water. Acknowledge the plant, animal, mineral, and spirit realms, our brothers and sisters in the walk of life. I thank the ancestors for their loving guidance and strength to heal what we bring into the world, as well as the burdens that we have inherited. Thank you to our other spirit helpers that let us know that we are never alone. If modern animism helps you in your spiritual walk, please share the love by giving us a comment, sharing the podcast, liking, or subscribing. The podcast is free to listen to, but not to produce, so if it's meaningful for you, please consider donating. I got a verbal comment from someone yesterday that contained really useful feedback. And if I don't get comments from you, I can think that none of this matters and stop doing it. So please do reach back in whatever way feels good for you. And let's make this a 2-way relationship. Thanks. So raise your hand if the wars that are raging around us negatively impact you. I know that's at least half of us. The other half is blissfully ignorant, and maybe it's not on their radar because it's not impacting them personally. But thousands of Americans have enlisted to fight in the Israel-Hamas war. The only stat that I was able to find for Americans in Ukraine said that there's about 3,000 Americans fighting for Ukraine, but that statistic is from 2022, so it's probably a lot more. And there's probably some even fighting on the Russian side. And because politics is politics, no one ever knows when things could escalate and we get dragged into something huge. So what is a person to do? Well, clearly, some join the fight out of a sense of loyalty, justice, indignation, or other reasons. I think there's a better way. War is always a fight with oneself because you are everything and everything is you. If we end the war within, the one outside of us takes care of itself. Think about it. At the head of every country is a person who makes the call to go to war. That person sees no other way out. And at the start of every war is a person who gathers supporters around them. This person creates a sense of us against them. When you get enough people who feel downtrodden or entitled to take what they want, you get a mob or an army who's willing to kill people to take what they want or get their way. That's not cool. When you are someone who sees all people, animals, plants, and minerals as part of the whole, you know that harming your leg doesn't make your arm feel better. In other words, you can't go against yourself to feel good or safe. And when you go to war, it's always a war with yourself. That's a very big idea, so let me break it into smaller chunks. One of the things you can do to stop the war inside of you is to learn conflict resolution skills. If you don't have great conflict resolution skills, you can ignore conflict. This might feel good in the short term, but it's not a great strategy in the long term because one of 3 things ends up happening. You either feel resentful for all the times that you didn't speak up for yourself and didn't get what you wanted, or you avoid people and don't have relationships because it's too hard, or you blow up on people when you get fed up with not being seen. And all of that leads to not having satisfying relationships. Now, conflict is normal and natural. Anything that ends in a question mark is a conflict. That can be, do you want to have lunch? Or when are you either going to pay the rent or get out of my house? So learning how to deal with conflict isn't as easy as it sounds, because that could be a multifaceted problem. Do you even realize that there is a conflict? Do you have the courage to speak up? Can you tell that the conflict really, what it really is, or do you get derailed by extraneous details? Can you self-regulate so that you have a calm, peaceful space to negotiate? How are your listening skills? Do you feel good enough about yourself to ask for what you want? Are you worried about pleasing the other person so much that you cave in too quickly? So conflict resolution is not the easiest thing. Like I said, it's multifaceted, but that's a good place to start. Another tactic that has helped me tremendously to stop the war inside of me was to practice radical responsibility. Radical responsibility is about fixing what I can fix. It doesn't have to be a problem that I created. If I can fix it and leave the world a better place, I do it. Now, this has to be done with boundaries. I can't go into someone's room and clean it. That's not my business, and it could get me into a lot of trouble. However, if it's trail trash, I'm going to pick it up. It's bothering me, so I'm going to take the initiative and clean it up for my own peace of mind, the health of the animals who live in the space, and for the enjoyment of others who come along. If I've done something wrong, as soon as I become aware of it, I'll repair it. I don't have to wait for someone to tell me about it. I just do it because it's a way for me to have harmony within myself. Let's do the things that people get upset about are projections. If I'm saying, you're offending me with your language, guess what? People have a right to think what they want and say what they want in whatever way they want. And I have a right to not take it personally or be offended. My being offended isn't their problem. It's my problem, because where does the power lie? If I make it their issue to fix their language, I've just given my power away, because they now have the power to make me feel offended or peaceful. Do I want to do that? No. So I will govern my own inner peace by not being offended. Another way that this has shown up in my life is that I was hanging out with someone who was not being honest. I knew she was not being honest. I asked her about it, and she continued to not be honest. And so I removed myself from her because I don't feel safe with her. Her behavior was not my problem. My reaction to her behavior was my problem. I don't want to take out my uneasy feelings on her because it wasn't about her. It was about me. And removing myself gave me space to figure out what was going on with me. When I came to a place of peace with that, her lies and behavior stopped creating an emotional reaction with me. I still don't want to be around her because she was still untrustworthy, but I wasn't holding any emotions about the situation anymore. So a third suggestion is to allow yourself to be seen. Take up space in a healthy way. So if you grew up in a household where it was dangerous to be seen because you might be picked on or harmed in some way, you learned how to fade into the background. I'm not a student of Hitler, but if I had to guess, I would say he had low self-esteem as a child. His "we're number one" attitude was a way of covering up his insecurities and feeling important. This is bully energy gone wild. This is the same energy behind gangs and gang leaders. These people don't feel loved or like they belong, so they found someone who's willing to put them on a pedestal and feed their ego and make them feel like they belonged. That's not a bad thing, but it's horrible when it comes at the expense of other people. When it means that we hit, steal, abuse, or kill other people, that's our rage coming out on the world. And the biggest part of it is that it doesn't soothe the hurt inside, so it's not an effective strategy. So let's make that the next suggestion. Be effective. When we change our thinking from being right or wrong to being effective, so many terrible choices are avoided. In no world is it effective to kill people, take land, and destroy cultures, yet that's what genocide is all about. That's what colonialism is all about. I think most of us have evolved enough to not want to engage in that type of activity. We can cloak it in patriotism or tradition or survival, but let's see it for what it is. There's a quote from the Bible that says, "What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul?" Or another way of putting it comes from this quote that I read somewhere. I don't know who said it, but to paraphrase, he said, "When you kill someone, a part of your soul goes with that person, never to be regained." This is what I mean. When I was a kid, I thought I could never kill anyone. Then I had a child and thought, oh, I will kill you if you mess with my family. And now I'm back to the place where I couldn't do it because of the wound to my own soul. I'm not so attached to this body or this life that I can't give it up. We're all going to die sometime. It may not be in the time or the way that we choose, but the soul goes on. And I don't want that stain on my soul, so I'd rather go peacefully and with integrity, knowing who I am and what I am. And I'm not saying that you have to believe that, I'm just saying that this is where I am now. And I'm peace and love, and I think that I would feel that I'd lost my soul and identity if I allowed anger and fear to take that away from me. So that's effectiveness for me. The next tip is to practice forgiveness. One way to stay in the grounded space of knowing who you are is to practice forgiveness. Fear and anger accumulate. They can grow to such a point that you do things that you never thought you'd do. Or maybe you collapse in on yourself and stop living. If you practice forgiveness every day for the things that you did, things that you didn't do that would have made life better, or the things that were done to you or not done to you, you get lighter every day instead of heavier. Think about all that baggage you're carrying right now. I work as a shadow work coach and trauma therapist. Every day I work with people who say, whew, I didn't even know that was in there. But they feel a lot lighter when they let go of whatever that thing is. Maybe it's like carrying a load of bricks on your back while walking uphill. Or maybe it's like walking on the bottom of the ocean with lead shoes on. It's always something heavy, a burden. And what they don't know is that it's always self-imposed. Maybe someone did give it to you, but you have the choice to refuse it or to put it down. But we like to be self-sacrificing and martyrs, so we just go on carrying stuff. Anyway, if you get in the habit of practicing forgiveness, you will eventually get around to that thing that you're carrying that you aren't aware of. Or just hit me up. I can help you to find it and put it down. The things we take out on others, the grudges that we hold, all that is justification for why we are entitled to hate them, or to do them harm, or to take their stuff, or to not like them. Let that go. All of that is part of why we are at war with each other. It's a reflection of the war within. Now the next tip is to practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is the action of being here now. Most of us aren't doing that ever. We either think about what has already happened, what's going to happen, or fantasizing what's never going to happen. Or maybe we're zoning off or zoning out with a video game or a movie, so we're not here. This is a great way to get hypnotized by advertisement. And whether you know it or not, lots of different people are hypnotizing you every day through entertainment or advertisement to get you to think a certain way and to buy certain things. People who want your vote use propaganda and catchphrases to sway your thinking and thus control the population. If everyone is saying the sky is blue and green is a healthier color, there will be initiatives to make the sky green. If the popular chant is Joe Bob is the people's leader, then that's what we think because we're lazy followers. It's a lot easier to go with what you hear and what everybody else is saying than to think and to listen to your own inner wisdom and make your own choices. And when you're mindful, every moment's like that. So when Animal Farm happens and everything goes crazy, you aren't swept up with it like a lot of German citizens when the Nazis came through. You can see the crazy as it's happening and respond effectively. When you're acting out of alignment with your values, you catch it. You can put a stop to it rather than allowing it to flow unchecked and out of control. Lots of people go years in a state of disembodiment, missing their kids growing up, missing out on the wonder that is spring, and missing telltale signs that they're moving into a state of dis-ease. They don't catch up to it until it's too late to do anything about it because too much time has passed. If you've ever been in a bad breakup with a partner or a company who is set on torturing you for daring to leave, you probably know what I mean. They attack and attack an attack trying to steal your peace of mind, so you replay this scene and do the coulda, woulda, shoulda dance. You maybe spend a lot of time second guessing yourself, and this can last all night long, weeks, or even years. And if you're lucky enough to wake up, you see what a waste of time it all was, because the ruminating changed nothing, made you feel miserable, and caused you to lose sight of the joys and opportunities in this moment. Adopting mindfulness isn't just about seeing what's wrong or out of balance in the world. It's about enjoying the beauty that each moment brings. It's about living fully. We all live in a world of contrast. There's light and dark, beauty and ugliness, and it's all lovely. There isn't anything to fight because it's all natural. We don't have to get Botox because aging is normal. We don't have to be the best in the class. Everything lies on a spectrum. Some days we're in front and some days we're behind. That's just how life works. And it's all good. Practicing mindfulness really makes that obvious. And when we're here, there's nothing to do and nothing to want. There's also no reason for war. So the next suggestion for how to end war is to be embodied. This is really a side effect of being mindful, but I want to talk about this separately because so many of us have no relationships with our bodies at all. You just have to look at the rates of addiction of all sorts to know that this is true. Because addiction's about escape. We escape by becoming intoxicated, gambling, controlling our eating, having compulsive sex, and playing video games. We want that hit of adrenaline or dopamine to make us feel good because we're so numb or sad and we don't know how else to make it stop. Guys, this is the height of ineffectiveness. Your body is the way that we connect with the outside world. When we abuse it, that signal gets jacked up. So we have to be in our bodies to know when someone is safe, if a situation feels good to us, and whether we should proceed with the plan or not. We're emotional creatures, and this is like our superpower. We can't use that if we're disconnected from it. Your body keeps the score, and if you have health issues, you're not at peace. You're not treating yourself as the temple that you are. And if you don't have a relationship with your body, you're not going to know this. How this relates to ending war is this. If someone is pumping my head full of patriotic talk that leads me to joining the military to kill people, I might get intoxicated by all that patriot speech. It might give me a way to feel important and needed. But if I'm embodied, I might also feel revulsion at the idea of killing people. I might be in touch with my sense of connection to these people who are my neighbors, who look like me and speak the same language as me. So being embodied helps me to live holistically. My mind, body, and emotions need to be on the same page in order for me to get a full-bodied yes. And this makes me less easy to manipulate so I can practice sovereignty and be my own person. As a connected, loving member of society, I'm not going to advocate for violence against others or separate people into us and them. Maybe they truly are bad guys, but they don't need killing. Maybe they need understanding so that we can find common ground. Another useful tactic to end the war within is to find your mantra. Your mantra is a phrase that you say to remind yourself that you are peace and love. The war that rages outside of you is not going to steal that peace and love inside, and commit to that. Your words could be something like, I am peace, or we are one. Your words should remind you of your vow to yourself, that you have power over your internal environment, and to be a powerful incentive to maintain your calm. This mantra serves to redirect you to what's important, the love and light that you are inside. Poverty, violence, fear, and anger distract us from the love and light that we are. It's like the story about the child and his grandfather. The grandfather tells the little boy that there are two wolves fighting inside, a good one and a bad one. And the child asks, which one wins? And Grandpa replies, the one you feed. So, I'm not saying that oppression and hate are not real, or that they're unimportant. I'm saying that if we get caught up in battling it, we've already lost. Because the only weapon, if you want to call it that can win against those things is love. When we do things for justice, revenge, or survival, we leave the seed of the anger, hate, and fear intact. When we wait to engage with love and understanding, that person who looks like our enemy, we know that they just want safety and love and survival too, and then we can sow those seeds. It's like Bruce Lee when he was saying, be like water. You can't fight anything with resistance. It just makes it stronger. If you're flexible like water, you'll tire it out until it loses all energy and fuel. And that is when you can transform it into peace and love. All the things I've suggested so far to end the war inside are about becoming aware of what's within, showing up, maintaining calm, and taking care of what you bring to the problem. All that's left for you to do now is always go for the win-win. Now, most of us were brought up with the attitude of winning. I know I was. And if I get more than you, or if I'm ahead of you, that's a good day. The problem with that is that it creates a loser, and that loser may become an enemy if he's on the bottom too often. When we go for the win-win, we create neighbors, friends, and allies. It doesn't mean that we have to give up anything, play small, or lose any ground. But let me show you what I mean. When I was working as a mediator for the courts, I got a referral for a child custody case when the grandmother had custody of her grandkids and the mom wanted them back. The mom was not the most reliable parent in the past, and that's why Grandma was not willing to give them back. Neither Grandma nor Mom was willing to negotiate, and both cared about the kids' well-being. So I asked them both what they wanted and what they saw as the obstacles, and they both spoke without interruption until they were done. Now, a lot of times people go on and on and on when they haven't been heard, but for whatever reason, most of the time in mediation with me, people kept it short and to the point. I think that's because they feel that I'm listening, so that's super important. Now, this didn't take any time at all. What I heard was that the grandmother wanted to be assured that the kids had stability, so I asked her what stability looked like. She said she wanted the kids to stay in the same school and to continue their after-school activities. I asked Mom if she could do that. She said yes, and the kids went back to their mom with the blessing and satisfaction of both parties. Now, I've never negotiated a war truce before, but I would imagine that it's as easy as that. In all my experiences as a mediator, I only had 2 cases that weren't resolved, and that's because in neither case they were just not appropriate for mediation because there was domestic violence involved and the parties didn't have equal power. One side wanted to manipulate and win. And he didn't want a win-win where both people got what they wanted. He wanted an outcome where he crushed the other side. So they had to go in front of a judge. Anyway, the point is that if you want to end the war, you have to be willing to have peace. That means that both sides end with what they want. They both end happy. Only when our hearts are happy can we feel safe with each other. If you have suggestions on how to end the war within, let me know in the comments. It's a scary world we live in today, and we will either live together in peace or we won't. I believe that we have amazing powers to end the war, starting with the war inside. I hope that you use your power for peace and love. After all, animism is not just about the belief that all things are alive, sacred, and connected. It's the practice of living as if that is so. So thanks for being here, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Ciao.